According to the Center for Management Development, about 60 million Nigerians spend 1.6 trillion naira on generators annually. This is a reflection of the endemic power crisis, even in the face of the federal government's power sector reform. On this week's edition of the program, the Minister of Power explains why the existing power plants have failed to meet the nation's power demands. Hello there, glad you could join us on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. The provision of regular, affordable and efficient electricity is crucial to the growth, prosperity, national security as well as rapid industrialization of any society. However, poor electricity is one of the prominent infrastructure deficit gaps in Nigeria. We'll be looking at how the federal government is addressing the nation's power sector problems. But up ahead. 2014 will go down in Nigeria as a time when the production and supply of electricity moved from public sector to private investors. But in spite of the transition, the journey to steady electricity supply is still in the works.
November 2014 marked a year since private operators took over power management in Nigeria. Safely put, the new Power Reform Act passed into law in 2005 to essentially privatize the sector has been achieved. That process, however completed, have thrown up more unforeseen challenges. Steady electricity supply has been linked to national productivity and a critical component for economic growth. What many did not know is that mere privatization is not an automatic ticket to steady supply. Between February and March, the country lost 800 megawatts owing to vandalism of gas pipeline.
We can't make it. Most of the little gain we make goes back on buying fuel.
I have a job, but there's no NEPA. There's no power supply since last year. This is how I will be. If I come to the workshop, I will be sleeping until the time. If I wanted to go, I will just wake up and go.
The lows in effective supply largely was attributed to shortage in gas supply. In June, while Nigerians still grappled with epileptic power, a tariff adjustment was effected, and despite several explanations by NEC as contained in MITO, this didn't go down well with many Nigerians.
Where exactly are we getting it wrong? Let them fix those areas. Is it pipeline vandalism? Is it that we're not generating enough? Is it that the dams are not enough? Is it that the gas stations are not enough? Let them put all those together and look at it. They come to a drawing table. Where exactly have we gotten it wrong? Then, from there, they begin to address. And our power sector will be a thing to laugh about.
We are already starting to carry out the overhauls that bedeviled the industry years back. We are already making plans to add capacity to the existing capacity of EGBI.
Effective service delivery is linked to an effective capture regime. So for most consumers, 2014 didn't fulfill their dreams of a payment system that is soothing. However, for the men that interface daily with them, it is in the interest of both parties to have an effective metering system.
We have a very robust metering plan that we have embarked upon right now. The investors, they secure a lot of funds, a lot of millions of dollars that will be invested in the metering.
To address some of these, the House Committee on Power visited some homegrown prepaid meters manufacturers to help galvanize patronage from the discos, but that didn't yield much fruit.
The consumers are not allowed to get meter freely, and that's most hindrances that we are facing, and that's why we could not penetrate the market. You can see the large stock of meter we have in the store. So,
when power generation hit 4,000 megawatts, that also did not translate into kilowatts capacity for homes, as transmission couldn't wheel out every power generated. Perhaps another disappointing low moment is the inability of the federal government to declare the transitional electricity market, which is meant to boost more investment and ensure accountability by operators. Sadly, several other agreements guaranteeing efficiency are still stalled pending the transitional electricity market. Some of these are the Grid Connection Agreement, Ancillary Service Agreement, Power Purchase Agreement, Gas Supply Aggregation Agreement, and Gas Transportation Agreement. For some solutions, there has to be a fast-tracking of gas revolution agenda through the promotion of gas exploration and development. At the close of the year, projections for 2015 put generation at 10,000 megawatts in the first quarter and 20,000 megawatts by year-end 2015.
What we are doing now, not only in our capacity to generate, but in our capacity also to wheel out. We have moved from Gear 1 to Gear 2. We are moving from Gear 2 to Gear 3. And very soon, we will even reach Gear 5.
Having secured the 213 billion Naira intervention funds, no excuses may really suffice if by the fourth quarter of the year, Nigeria still grapples with less than 15,000 megawatts of generation and supplied electricity.
Now, joining me now to expatiate on this is Professor Chinedu Nebo, the Minister of Power. Professor Nebo, you're welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
But let's begin with when power distribution, generation and distribution assets were handed over to their new owners. You know, ever since then, there's still a huge lacuna in the system, the sector. What is happening right now?
Well, one thing is very certain. When you run into the massive nature of the privatization exercise that Nigeria performed, you are bound to have teething problems. But we're not making excuses for anyone because actually things have improved. Figures do not lie, and we do know that we have more power generated, transmitted, and distributed than we have ever had in the history of Nigeria. But when you come to privatization per se, it's like starting school all over again. I'm sure that Nigerians remember that most people felt it was not an exercise that would succeed. It needed the dogged determination of Mr. President, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, to carry the privatization through. Many countries have tried, they have failed. Maybe Nigeria should have tried to face the program, but we didn't. We took the bull by the horn on a journey that we believe is in the best interest of all Nigerians. So these teething problems included the fact that we had more than 50% of consumers not metered. The implications, till today, Nigeria has about the highest electricity theft in the whole world. No country rivals Nigeria in the level of electricity theft. People are stealing energy and not paying for it. Within President Goodluck Jonathan's period as president, we have reduced the technical losses substantially, making sure that the transmission infrastructure, distribution infrastructure, and all that are better tuned in a way as to minimize losses. So you're not losing energy as much as we used to lose before.
When you say as much as, what exactly are you referring to? You put it in percentage form.
Well, I would say that we have recovered more than 40% of the losses we encountered before with regards to technical losses. And that is fantastic. But when you think about commercial losses, we haven't done anything. In fact, the distribution companies are duty-bound by their contractual agreement with the government to reduce commercial losses. You cannot effectively and very proactively reduce commercial losses unless you are 100% metered. And because over 50% of the country is not metered, people use electricity they don't pay. Some others are getting bills that are too high.
Overestimated bills.
Oh yes, overestimated bill in order to make up the balance. And others are not getting anything. And at the end of the day, who pays for it? Everything is averaged into the total package are modeled in a way that the consumers who are really paying end up paying for those who are not paying. It's so painful for me as Minister of Power that any time we hit the threshold of 4,500 megawatts and stay there for weeks, they vandalize the gas pipelines.
Well, how come that happens successfully over time? Are you saying there's no monitoring body in place effectively doing this?
When these pipelines were made, there was no digital monitoring mechanism. Today, it is not like that. Going back to emplace a digital censoring or monitoring or surveillance system is very expensive, but we have to do it. There are mechanisms that you can emplace that will even warn intruders and emit some sound when human beings start coming close to. These things are exceptionally expensive. It's not something government can do overnight. These things need to be budgeted for. But government has gone beyond that. And that is why we are working very hard to ensure that there is a robust energy or fuel mix. Coal is now being developed. For the first time in the history of this country, people are actually doing exploration for coal, and the company is already mining coal, and an EPC contract for an IPP that would deliver power by coal has already been awarded. Never happened before this administration. Mr. President is very eager to make sure that coal takes off. And I'm working closely with my brother, who is the Minister of Mines and Steel Development. We came to an agreement that anybody who will be issued a coal mining license must certify that the coal will be used for power generation. He agreed. And so all those who are now being issued licenses now, as I talk with you, I know that there is exploration, intensive exploration going on to validate the quantities of coal, because before you can now get investors to come in and then take the block or mine and then use it for power, they have to ascertain the actual amount of coal there. It's happening at this very moment. So that's diversification. In addition to that, we have more hydros coming, lots of small hydros. We've done feasibility studies. They will come on stream very soon. Then for the bigger hydros, Zungeru has started. That was flagged off by Mr. President on the 28th of May 2013 for 700 megawatts. That's huge. Zungeru had been in the picture for 40 years. Only President Jonathan came and said, Zungeru must go on. Zungeru has started. You need to go and take a look and see what is happening there. Mambila has been in the picture for 50 years. Only this president said, hey, enough of drawing board, enough of vision and dream. We will do Mambila. The same president. Look at Itisi Dam. Look at Kashimbila. Kashimbila is fully completed and will be commissioned. That is the the dam aspect of it. And then the hydropower aspect of it is ready to go by the second week of February. But what is left is the transmission end of it that will also be flagged off in the second week of February. So government is doing a lot, but these things don't happen overnight. They take time. If you want to cook beans, you have to use various methods. If you use firewood, it will take longer. You use gas, it may cut short the time. Now you need to use pressure cooker to reduce the time substantially. Government is trying to use pressure cooker in this instance so that it doesn't, a situation that would have taken several more years will take less years.
All right, I have one fundamental question for you, but that will be after the break. We're still with the Minister of Power, Professor Chinedu Nebo. When we come back, we'll talk more on this. Please join us again.